I'll not introduce him. Who does not know Gabriel?
Everyone, huh?
Those are not your friends. So I'm not going to introduce Gabriel. He's going to come and take over the session.
There are two, I'm generalizing a bit, but there are two general ways you can get security work. As part of an internal organization, say for example you're part of a bank's internal security team, or you develop security products just for your organization, or you can be an external resource doing work for other organizations. Say you're a consultant who does pen testing or incident response. I'm generalizing a bit, but that's how the two general forms are. I've done a bit of both. Now I'm trying to get out of consulting. It can be exhausting, but both of them have advantages, both of them have disadvantages. I personally prefer, at this moment in my career, I want to do internal security. Okay, now getting started, the most common question I get asked. Most people don't know where to start, especially if you see those weird career maps and stuff like that. And the advice I give them, I'm sure even which sites to use, I'd start with the stuff that is going to be helpful regardless of the career you get into. There are some things that are just basic, whether you're doing blue teaming, red teaming, whether you're application security, whether you're doing forensics, there are some basics that you should do. Some of the most common ones is just getting familiar with popular operating systems like Windows and Linux, especially using the command line. There are a lot of tools that don't have UIs and stuff like that, so you might want to learn how to use you should learn how to use the command line. The coding and scripting, okay, I should mention, you can be successful in security without coding and scripting, but a lot of jobs these days require some level of automation. So I'd recommend at least learning one popular scripting language. I personally hated coding when I was leaving uni. I got into security because I was avoiding coding, not because I was passionate about security. I was avoiding coding, and eventually passion came along the way, but now I actually wish I'd started earlier, because it's added so much value to my life. Because coding allows you to be creative. It allows you to, put your ideas that you might have in your head into something that other people can use. Yeah? So I'd recommend at least start with the simple ones. Python, Go, those ones can be used for pretty much anything. I always recommend Python because it's very easy to start. And a lot of jobs these days, you'll see some level of scripting language required, especially the technical roles, whether it's blue teaming, red teaming. Build a home lab. I can't explain how valuable this is when you're starting out. Home labs are everything. It can be a lab with Active Directory, it can be a lab with anything. Whatever it is you're interested in, try building a home lab, and we'll even talk about it later in the CV section. And then also things like, these IT security things and frameworks, the CIA tribe, those things you learn at the beginning. They're kind of boring, but I promise you they make you a better security professional later on down the line. The reason I'm recommending those skills is because they add value regardless of the field you're in. So even if you don't know where you're going yet, those ones will provide a good foundation. Where to start? This is the one site I wish existed when I was starting security. Anyone here who uses TryHackMe? Bunch of people, yeah? Please use TryHackMe. I can't explain how valuable it is. At first I thought it was just for pen testing and stuff, but they have so much content, and even if you go to the site with zero knowledge, you have no clue how to use Linux, you have no clue what security is, there's some use popular learning paths. I don't, like I said, the slides will be shared, so the links will get some later. So start with TryHackMe. There's a lot of free content, but if you can afford the $10 per month, just do it. It's a lot cheaper than paying for these professional subs. I think YCP now is at what? $1,500, yeah? $1,500. It's a lot cheaper than paying for such things. So TryHackMe is where some people do say hack the box, but the reason I don't recommend hack the box is is great when you're learning CTFs, but if you're coming from a point where you don't know anything, they don't have that beginner level content. If you want to do CTFs, hack the box is definitely the best. But if you're just coming from a point where you don't know anything, start with TryHackMe. Then how to focus on a specific field. As you're bouncing around these different things, trying out different things, you might find that thing that you like doing a bit better than the other things. That's actually how I started doing security, because a lot of people who are here, like I said, at the beginning try to be flexible, do a bit of everything. Then you'll find one or two things that you actually enjoy a bit more than the others. Try diving deeper into those topics. Find content. One thing I like to search for is on this GitHub. On GitHub there's this awesome, say, red teaming pages, awesome malanalysis. Have you ever seen those things? Awesome specific topic. You can now start looking for specific content around that subject area you're interested in, and that's how you might end up now specializing a bit in a specific topic. That's how I actually ended up specializing for offensive security. if you don't find anything you're passionate about, or it will come over time, or you can just do the thing you hate. You don't hate doing as much as the other stuff. Like I personally hate mobile stuff, I really hate it, so I did other things to avoid mobile, and eventually I landed in stuff I do enjoy, like Windows environments, and other things like that. This is another common argument we have in security, or just a popular debate. Do you prefer doing the thing where you're a bit of a generalist and competent in multiple topics, or do you prefer the deep dive into a single topic? Who has something that they prefer? So red is like deep diving into a specific topic, becoming an expert in something. Blue is more like where you balance. What do you think is the right answer here? Red? Blue? Honestly, there's no right answer. There's no right answer. Like, there are people who can become experts at one, who can become successful because they only know one thing, and there are people who can become really successful because they juggle a bunch of things. So it really depends on who you are, what kind of field you're in. Like, I have friends who become very successful by just knowing one thing really, really well, or one or two things really, really well, but also know people who've gone very far by juggling. So it also depends on your job role. Like in red teaming, it's very hard to focus on one thing because the scope is always changing. Now cloud is a big thing. So if you're a competent red teamer, you might want to touch on cloud. Almost every red teamer needs to know at least something about Windows Active Directory, and needs to know a bit about web application security. So depending on your job role, so for me, like I actually prefer doing a bit of both, where you're competent in a bunch of things, but then there's some specific topics that you're pretty good at, or at least above average. And when you're working in an awesome team, like I've worked with some of the people who are on the panel here, your strengths make up for each other's weaknesses. Yeah? Like I said, I hate mobile, but if you're working in a team where someone is good at mobile, they'll cover for your weaknesses. Now about certifications, this is something I get asked a lot in education. Unfortunately, a lot of jobs still require a degree as a minimum, but don't let that stop you. Don't let that, you're not doomed if you don't have a degree. There are a lot of people who still become really, really good at security. We have a friend in Africa who, yes, he has a degree, but it's in architecture. It's like she has a business degree or something. Yeah? So you can still make it pretty far in security with or without a degree, whether it's relevant or not. Certifications, I would say they help when you're job hunting, but of course, 90% of the time, most of these certs are usually out of reach of someone who's just starting. Yeah? If you're just fresh out of uni, there's no way that you're paying 150K for a single cert. But that doesn't mean you can't get certs. So one popular way to get certifications, especially when you're starting off, is making use of these offers and stuff. There's this thing called Microsoft Training Days. I just learned about it, juicy. If you attend a Microsoft Training Day, the calendar is there. It's when you open the link, you can actually get a free certification attempt for the AZ900. So all these big sites tend to have offers, tend to have these kinds of promotions. These are the kind of things you can use. And also when you're beginning, TryHackMe and Udemy and some of these other people, they have course completion certificates. When you're beginning, you can use those things as certificates, yeah? Because if you don't have the cash for the recipes or whatever cert it is you're interested in, you can use sites like this to get offers on these things, and then you put those certs as part of your CV. That's what I didn't used to know that when I started off, but I wish I'd done it. So TryHackMe, I believe they give you like a course completion badges and stuff like that, yeah? When you finish your course. You can use things like that, because I think they even give you verification links. You can add things like that to the certification section on your CV. Oh yeah, and one really important thing I should have mentioned is, please start learning how to take notes as early as possible in your career. Yeah? It's one of the most important, actually my biggest regret in security is I started taking notes a bit late, proper notes later on in my career. Pick an app right now and start documenting everything. I'm sure you learned from everyone here that security is one of those fields where you're constantly learning, yeah? All the time. Malusi had to go back to the idea for her notes. Now imagine security, what used to keep happening is, I'd have to keep going back to topics I'd already touched on, because I didn't have the notes. So now every time you learn something, pick a note app. I'm not going to try and convince you which note app is better, but these are the most popular ones for pretty much anyone. Obsidian, Notion, and now a lot of people like Notion. Just pick any, I don't care which one you use, but start taking notes as early as possible, because you really don't have to be going through the process where you're relearning stuff you've already touched on. Now I'll move on to personal branding. A lot of these topics will feed into each other. So personal branding. So this is also a really, really important one. I can't explain just how much your personal brand helps when you're hunting for jobs. What do I mean by personal brand? Personal brand is everything, how you appear to the world. I don't mean like dressing, not silly stuff like that. Like I mean how your presence online, you know, where if someone Googles you, what do they find? Do you have a blog? Do you have a data? Do you have a Twitter? Things like that. That's really, really important. Again, it's another regret I have because I started doing things very late. I started my blog relatively late. I wasn't on Twitter for a while. My friend Tronsky is the one who convinced me to join Twitter. That's where InfoSec people, techies hang out. I was ignoring most of those things, but I wish I'd started earlier. And it's not about getting, you know, all the followers, you know, 100,000 followers. It's not about that. It's more about connecting with people in your field. Because, as I'm sure people here mentioned, that network matters a lot, especially when job hunting. Yeah? I don't know if you've job hunted, but the easiest way to look for work is if you have a good network. If you have a vast network, someone knows your name somewhere, that's how you get recommendations, that's how you get jobs. So let's start on which sites you can use. So of course there's a lot of social media sites these days, but primarily for InfoSec, people hang out on Twitter. Actually, if you think it's for most tech fields, even coders, primarily they hang out on Twitter, yeah? So Twitter is like, it's the tech place, you know, people have to argue there and be depressed and everything, but that's also where the majority of techies hang out. So if you want to start connecting people in the field, both locally and internationally, you want to join Twitter. If you're happy without social media, by the way, you know, power to you. I'm not going to try and convince you to join social media, but honestly, it's very hard to connect with people if you're not on. Say you have a really cool blog you want to share, Twitter is the easiest way to get it out there. Actually, look, get used to sharing your progress and achievements, even if it seems lame. I'll talk about imposter syndrome a bit later on, but you've heard a lot about it. Even if it's those small achievements, you know, you finished a CTF, get used to sharing that stuff. Now this site, it's not my favorite site. I truly do not enjoy LinkedIn. I'm sure you've all heard the stories, those sob stories, inspirational stories. I was on my way to an interview, I fed a stray dog, and I was late for the interview. When I walked into the interview, guess who was the interviewer? It was the dog, yeah? So that is 90% of LinkedIn. Honestly, that is 90%. Because I'm not a fan of the site, but unfortunately, my policy for LinkedIn is it's one of those things you better have and not need than need and not have, yeah? Because remember what I said, if tech equals Twitter, for HRs and recruiters, where do they hang out? LinkedIn, yeah? So you can't avoid it, unfortunately. If you see my LinkedIn bio, you think I love it. You think I'm a professional LinkedIn user, but I really do hate the site, but I take it serious. What I usually do with LinkedIn is take it seriously at the beginning, you know, invest in building a serious profile, then from that just update it with, you know, if you get a new cert, go and update, go and share, you know, 90% of LinkedIn is also people sharing the jobs that you wish you got. Yeah, so you see that a lot. Go congratulate your friends, you know, don't feel that congratulate your friends, celebrate your friends' wins, your colleagues' wins and stuff. I personally don't enjoy it. LinkedIn influencers are honestly the bane of my existence, but it's necessary. I won't lie, it's really necessary. It would be very unfair for me to tell people who are just starting off to not create LinkedIn profiles. Honestly, create them. Create them as early as you can. Start connecting with your fellow students, your fellow professionals, and then the profile will grow over time. And by the recruiters, if you have a pretty impressive profile, recruiters actually end up reaching. You can reach a point where you're the one turning down jobs. Recruiters can actually start reaching out to you quite a bit. That's happened to me. It's happened to a bunch of friends. So get a serious profile, and even if you hate it, it works. Now, this is one of the most important things in security and most tech fields. You have to create some form of content. Honestly, it's the one way to really stand out from the crowd. Content comes in many forms. It can be blogging, it can be YouTube, it can be Zoom webinars, it can be a podcast like Sly was talking. This is one of the ways to stand out from the crowd. I've seen people get hired purely based on a blog they have, or that on code projects they've shared on GitHub. People without degrees, people without anything. Even I personally, people reach out to me just because of things like my blog, stuff like that. And that's how you also help build your network. And play to your strengths. If you don't like writing, you can, record videos. If you don't like recording videos, you can maybe learn to code and start sharing stuff on GitHub. But it's the easiest for making presentations. A lot of platforms these days, SheHacks is awesome because they have weekly sessions both for campus and for professionals. So you can do sessions there, they don't discriminate. Whatever content you have, you can take it. But start creating content as early as possible. It's another thing I wish I had started a lot earlier. And then sharing it to the community. And it's any form, by the way. I hear people using this, saying this, and even I suffer through this, like when you're beginning especially, you really feel like you don't have anything to share with the university. You don't feel like you have anything to share with professionals. You've done basic CTFs, but it doesn't matter. Honestly, someone wants to see your perspective. Just jamming into like someone wants to see what you've done. Someone wants to see your perspective, how you approach a CTF. It doesn't matter if there are 200 write-ups or 200 blogs about the same topic, just put it out there, and you'll never be ready. That's what actually I used to keep telling myself, that I'm not ready yet, I'm not ready yet. I promise you, there's no day you'll wake up and like, today is the day. Just do the thing. Yeah, fine, you might suck at the start, but you'll get better at some point. And another thing is people say, my content is basic for beginners. Do you know what the most popular type of content, the most viral type of content is? Content for beginners. Yeah, that is literally, even when I look at my blog traffic, the posts that are the most popular to this day are the ones that were written for for beginners, or I was learning about a topic and I just wrote about the topic in case anyone else wanted to learn about it. That's what makes more of an impact than the deep technical topics. Then networking. So I've mentioned this. Networking is really, really important. This is a line from my friend Trunsky. He said, people want to work with their friends. It's just the sad truth. People want to work with people they know. Yeah, so if someone at a job somewhere has a network, they'd rather work with people they know than put out CVs and get 1,000 applications from people they don't know. Network goes a long, long way. It's just the way of the world. Sometimes a lot of people who deserve jobs more get looked over because they didn't know the right people. It's just the way of the world. It's not changing. So you have to work on building a network. It's not even I struggle with networking, especially that part where I can build relationships. That part for maintaining it is where I struggle. But it's one of those things that everyone just has to do to some level. And in case you're wondering how to network, again, Twitter is where people hang out. All of you here are already doing the right thing. You're at a conference. I'd actually missed conferences. I haven't been one-to-one since COVID hit and all that. So interact with people here. You might not see them again, but make sure at least get some Twitter followers or connect to someone, get in someone's DM, talk to someone who's in the field. You never know, because they might not even be hiring, but they might know someone who is hiring, and they meet you and they've seen maybe you're very passionate about the field, you put out some content or whatever. So that's how when you're doing course and search channels, there's some of these courses and stuff you'll do where you're doing it together with someone else, especially like if you're doing a try hack me thing, you'll meet other people in the community, connect with people there. Again, people also can come to you if you put out content. If you put out a presentation, if you put out a blog, some people will sometimes reach out to you, so that's another value of creating content. Discord is really popular as well. There are a lot of Discord channels. If anyone wants them, I can share them later. A lot of Discord channels for InfoSec professionals. I think there's even one for the local Hack the Box Kenya, HTB Kenya. There's one just for the Hack the Box KE, so that's another great place to meet people who do the same thing. So, and yeah, unfortunately, also LinkedIn. LinkedIn is also great for networking. I've met people on LinkedIn. I've been offered jobs through LinkedIn. So again, create a profile there. Now, job hunting. Fun fact: I'm actually job hunting actively. So it's something I can talk about quite passionately. Like I said, I'm consulting at the moment, but I'm trying to get out of consulting because I'm tired. I'm a bit tired of it. So. The resume is where it starts. I'm not going to do a resume session. I'm not in HR, so I'm not going to get deep into how to build your CV. But I will ask you to research ATS compliant CVs. Anyone who knows what ATS is? ATS? Yeah. Just one sentence.
So it goes through your CV.
Yeah. Yeah, so an ATS system, you've sent your CV to someone before, yeah? You know most CVs get rejected before they're even looked at by a human being. It's because of ATS compliant things. So if you have ATS compliant CVs or CVs that can go through those systems, because if you use a CV that's like an image, say a JPEG, an ATS system can't even read it. So this is something I learned a bit later on, especially if you're sending your CV to an individual, to your network, that's fine. That's why a network is awesome, because you're sending directly to a human. If you're putting it into a system where you upload and stuff, learn how to make an ATS compliant CV. The links there, because what they do is scan for certain keywords and stuff like that, and they usually scan specific formats, PDF and documents, and there's certain CV formats that there are certain ways you can build your CV to make it pass those systems. So research that, I'll put links in there. I'm not going to talk about the format again, but please watch this video. from a cybersecurity content creator called CyberSecMech. It's actually the video I used to structure and build my own CV. She talks about which sections you can include, length and stuff. Length is up to the individual. I prefer 2 to 3 pages, but remember, HRs are people too. If your CV is 10 pages, no one's going to read it, honestly. The shorter the better, but I'm not going to tell you, make a 1-page CV, 2-page. It depends on your experience, depends on your stuff, but don't be extreme. Don't be too extreme. But just go watch this blog. Go watch this YouTube video. I think it's about 20 minutes. She just shows how the CV she built got a job application at some of the top firms in the world, actually, top security firms in the world, and she actually scored one of them eventually. So just go watch the video. I won't talk about it too much. Alright, so for those of you who are job hunting, I'm sure you've seen these crazy job requirements for entry-level roles, yeah? 5 years experience, 20 years leadership experience. It's just a problem with the whole industry. It happens it doesn't get any better at entry level, doesn't get any better at senior level. What I've really learned is organizations are looking for one person who can solve all of their problems, yeah? Which you're never going to find. It doesn't matter how good you are, you're never going to be the one person solve every security problem in an organization. But so you just get used to it. You're going to keep seeing it, never gets any better regardless of how far you go along. And my advice here is just apply anyway. By the apply anyway, it's just a problem with the industry. Apply anyway because what you should try to do is try to meet the most important requirements. Every job has the most crucial requirements. So if it's like say a mobile app pen tester, a web app pen tester, you should probably be very competent at that mobile app pen testing. But the other things that they might put there like threat hunting, which is not a thing for mobile people, but they put it there because again, they're looking for someone to solve everything. Just apply. But there's a lot of what we call learning on the job in security. Yeah? So Jamini, don't let those requirements scare you off. If it says 5 years experience and you have 3, just apply. Honestly, just try. I think sometimes they also sometimes those things also filter out people who might not be too confident in themselves. Yeah. So just apply. Of course, I'm not saying if you have 1 year experience, go and apply for a CISO position. Even there should be a limit. Yeah. There should be a limit to your self-confidence. Your coding should not go that far. Yeah? There should be a limit to how far it goes, but don't let certain things scare you off. We all learn on the job, by the way. We all learn on the job. It's one of those constant things. It's a guarantee. So how do you get experience without experience? Because you're probably going to be applying for jobs that are demanding all sorts of experience, and you might never have worked. You're fresh out of uni. At most, you might have an internship, or maybe not. So what are the kind of things you can put on your CV? Remember I was talking about doing courses and certs on TryHackMe. Build a certifications part on your CV, put those links, the completion badges you've gotten, that really helps. Because how people, you might have done all these courses, but if it's not on your CV, an employer will assume you've not done anything, yeah? So you have to share them put them on your CV. Content creation, if you have blogs, if you have a YouTube channel, if you have a GitHub page, those are the kind of things that you should be on your CV. Are you a member of a community? Are you part of SheHacks? Are you part of Africa Hackon or BSides? Have you helped through a conference somewhere? Have you volunteered to do something? Those really help. Even now I still put those things on my CV. Like if I helped organize a conference, I still put those things on my CV. Are you part of a CTF team? That really helps. You're part of Team Freaks. Have you competed in any tournaments? Add that to your CV as well. That really helps because this is helping you stand out from. Because the thing is, when most of you graduate, or even most of you look the same. Yeah, you have the same degree, maybe. But what makes a difference is those people who've done those extra steps to stand out from the rest. And again, I mentioned this. Build a home lab, build a project section on your CV. Start putting that information on the CV. Sign up for free cloud credits from AWS, Azure, try to do a project, put that stuff in your CV because this just shows you've gone beyond what is expected of the average person, yeah? So, and a lot of these sites give you free credits at the beginning. So, especially if you have a student ID on Microsoft, I think you get $200 of free credits. It's incredible. Even I sign up for the student things. So, it's incredible. So, use that, try to do a project, put that stuff on your CV. And of course, volunteer work. Again, there's a video there about how to get experience without experience. And I'd already mentioned this, but you're doing all these things to stand out from the crowd. Remember, if all 100 applicants are probably 90% of you are going to look the same. You all have a degree, you probably all just left uni within the last year or two. But what helps people stand out if you all have the same experience, same number of years, it's those small things that you've done. Next up is, where to find jobs. Like I said, they don't want to do a job hunting session because that's something that can take a whole day. But network is always number one. LinkedIn is actually possible. I've actually gotten recruiters, so I've had friends getting recruiters from LinkedIn. So it's possible, apply for those jobs. Just get used to getting those rejections. Don't let them get to you personally, because they'll come. They will come, but just learn to see them and move on with your life. Recruiters I mentioned. And also, by the way, don't be afraid to apply for jobs outside the country. A significant number of people are getting jobs outside the country, whether it's relocation or remote work. Don't limit yourself to just looking for jobs here. Like, there are a lot of people who are actually getting opportunities outside the country. So, like I said, Germany, try apply for those jobs outside. Now the interviews, this is another thing that's really draining. It depends a lot on the company. Use sites like Glassdoor. I'm sure some of us are familiar with Glassdoor. Yeah, use sites like Glassdoor to learn about the interview process. It changes from company to company, but you don't walk into an interview just believing you know in your skills only. Learn about what that process might be. It can be really exhausting. For technical roles, it can change quite a bit, but this is a very popular interview format that you'll see in technical roles, where you'll have like a phone screening call with HR, you'll have the technical challenge, which can be pretty difficult depending on what kind of role it is. And actually, I find this actually more tiring than this one. It's a technical challenge on your own, it's you and your skills, yeah? But the technical interview with the team, it can be very difficult because they do like scenario-based questions, which are really, like what would you do in this scenario? They really test your in-depth knowledge of a topic. I actually prefer the CTF, so I feel like this third part is the hardest one. Then of course there's a negotiation and the onboarding. But this is actually just what I've been seeing a lot, especially now as I've been interviewing and looking for jobs. But it changes a lot from company to company. But don't walk in blind. Do your research on Glassdoor and places like that. Oh yeah, and I should mention this is a very popular thing in interviews these days. These situational-based questions. They are they happen. Actually, majority of companies interviewed before use these kinds of questions where they don't just ask you, what tool do you use for scanning, then you say Nmap, or what is threat hunting, you give the description. They ask you if it's whatever field you're in. They'll ask you if you're in this situation, what would you do? Because that's how they train the depth of your knowledge on that specific topic. So get used to answering these kinds of questions in interviews. Mentor game. So the last thing, this is one thing pretty much everyone who's been in security for a significant amount of time will end up talking about: imposter syndrome. Yeah? Everyone feels it. I wish I could tell you it goes away. For me personally, it's not gone away. It sticks with you regardless of how long. For me, it follows me around my whole life, basically. That's how I should explain it for me. It never gets any easier. And social media makes it worse, because everyone on social media is winning all the time. Yeah? all the time. No one is sharing the struggles. Everyone is sharing check out this cool exploit I just, this CV I just dropped. Check out this cool blog post that you don't even understand, but it's lit because it has a lot of follow, a lot of retweets. That is social media. It makes it worse. And I'd say you think I've been here 7 years and you think it's gotten better. I'd say it's gotten worse because now I see younger people doing the things that I can't even do now. Like I had Mugen John was saying he said top 10 in the world in Hack the Box. Do you know how hard that is to do? Is that really on Hack the Box? To be top 10. I think the highest I've been is like maybe 400. So it's really hard to do. So it gets worse, but my general rule for imposter syndrome is feel it. Feel it, whatever the hell you're going through, feel it, but don't let it stop you from putting yourself out there. I mean, if it's going to follow you around for the rest of your life, you might as well do what you want anyway. So don't let it limit you from doing the things you want to do. If you want to put out that blog, that video, if you want to try that CTF, if you want to apply for that job, just try. Like Germany, you have to Germany. I don't say, for me, I've given up trying to make it go away. I've just learned to live with it, but still do the things I want to. Another really common thing that you might get in security, especially in your later years, is burnout. It can be a very demanding field, yeah? Remember, most security teams are small and they have a lot of work to deal with. Especially if you're, say, working for a big bank, it can be like 5,000 employees, 8,000 employees, but you find the security team is maybe just 3 or 4 people. Can you imagine the amount of work you'd be dealing in an environment like that? And especially over the years. I remember when I was younger, I really used to feel burnout because everything was new, everything was fancy, everything was exciting. But as you get older, it gets really, really draining. You heard people say scrap if you find a job you're passionate about, you never have to work a day in your life. You've ever got that saying? That's garbage, man. Work at the end of the day is work, yeah? Work is work, and sometimes work sucks. Actually, I'm very passionate about security. It's the only thing I've ever really wanted to do. But even I sometimes have those days where I want to quit. I want to throw my laptop in the bin, move to the mountain, and never touch another computer again. And you have those days, and that's why I recommend having some things that take you away from the field for a while. It can be whatever hobbies. I'm not going to try and recommend hobbies for you. Personally, for me, I love gaming, I love stuff like that. It takes my mind away from these things. I love the outdoors. But whatever it is you find, learn how to identify the symptoms, because burnout always shows before it actually checks in. It always has like 2 things you see before it checks in. So learn how to identify those things and deal with it before it ruins your. Because when you can burn out for long periods of time. Like, what's the longest you've been burnt out for?
8 months.
8 months. Burnout can be serious. It can cripple you. It can make you literally stop learning. So learn how to identify it. Learn how to deal with it before it actually gets to the point where you can't deal with it. Yeah, the takeaways before I take questions is, so yeah, everyone's experience is different. That's why I really don't want to give you necessarily my life story, because I feel like everyone's story is different, and you can, rather than focus on that, I'd rather tell you things I wish I knew at the time. So yeah, learn from what I've said, but at the end of the day, your path. Never trust anyone who tells you this is the only path to, say you want to become a threat hunter, a malware analyst, and they tell you this is the only path you can follow. Everyone's path is different. You can go, someone can go straight, someone can go round, someone can take 1 year, 2 years, someone can take 10. So you just find your own path, whatever it is. There's always a way to get where you're going. Every single job has crappy parts to it. I do love what I do, but there's no job that's perfect. One of the things most of us hate is things like writing reports. I hate writing reports, but it's one of the most important parts of my job. So even if you find your perfect job, just understand that always going to be parts of the job that you dislike. You can learn from any situation, regardless of where you're at. And the thing is, the only real enemy is complacency. Just never try to avoid settling and never growing. Security is one of those fields where if you're not growing, it's very easy to get left behind, which makes all the other stuff worse, the imposter syndrome worse, the burnout worse. So just try and build a consistent habit. I'm not saying study 5 hours every day, but it's more important to build that consistency. Even if it's just 30 minutes, that took me a long time to learn. Instead of burning yourself out for 5 hours every single day, focus on even just putting in, if it's just smaller pockets of time that are easier to sustain. Because it builds up, doing something consistent, it builds up more significantly than doing, 1 day every week. It's better to do like that 1 hour every single day than doing a single day out of a week. Then I put in a lot of resources about the stuff I've talked about. These are now more detailed blogs, because this was only a 30-minute session and I figured there'd probably be questions. So these are more detailed blogs about specific topics. Career guides, job hunting, videos, credit for the icons and stuff I've used. So that's it, that's my presentation. I believe I can take any questions now.